The president's agenda includes a budget-busting assault on Alaska. Protecting our future means taking control of government spending. I opposed wasteful programs, like President Obama's trillion-dollar stimulus that failed to stimulate when it came to creating jobs. We can't afford this debt.
You also have to realize that that the polls in Alaska are notoriously inaccurate. In fact, in Governor Palin's race in 2006, they were off by almost 40 points. I can tell you that it's red hot here on the ground. We're closing the gap rapidly.
Oh, yes, he closed the gap. In fact, Joe Miller is leading in the Alaska Senate primary race for the GOP. Here's the latest, the very latest, just got new numbers in, 50.8% to 49.2% against incumbent Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski. The spread right now, 1,492 votes. They still have to count about 15,000 absentee ballots on Tuesday, and this one is too close to call. This is the shocker. We're back with the panel. Erin, there just wasn't any sign that this was coming. You heard Joe Miller in that interview say, you know, these polls are wrong. I feel it on the ground. He was right.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us were pretty stunned. No one was even focusing on, I didn't even see Joe Miller's face till today. I don't think anyone, particularly in Washington, had this guy on their radar. And clearly, Lisa Murkowski didn't have him on her radar. I mean, she had the money. She certainly had the establishment to help her if she wanted to tap into it. I don't think she was worried. She didn't want to go negative. And now we're hearing folks saying, maybe she didn't take this seriously enough, like John McCain, who took his race very seriously, and he trounced J.D. Hayworth in the Arizona Republican primary. She could have spent
more money on this race in the primary. Charles, Sarah Palin endorsed Joe Miller. So are you going to eat a little crow tonight?
Yes, this is a public confession. Once again, I've underestimated her. This really was a stunner. In fact, she had a clean sweep. Everybody she endorsed
it's not over
yesterday
yet, but
won. Well, I mean, even if he doesn't, it's so close that it's a moral victory, if you like. So on the one hand, she helped John McCain. I mean, he would have won on his own, but she helped him. It was sort of a generous repayment of a favor. And in Alaska, her endorsement of Miller was a fairly ungenerous continuation of a blood feud that she has had with the Murkowskis. She defeated Lisa Murkowski's father and ended his career, essentially. So I think that was a little more visceral. But she had a good night, and I think it sort of undoes the image that she'd had up until last night, where she'd had a losing streak. She is a force in the party. There's no way to deny it, and even if it's a sort of a virtual tie in Alaska, it speaks a lot about her influence.
Mark, Joe Miller, we haven't talked a lot about him. There hasn't been even a lot of video of him campaigning, but he is a West Point graduate with a Yale law degree, former federal district judge, a veteran of the first Gulf War with a Bronze Star. I mean, this guy has quite a resume.
He's got some substance behind him. I think there's 2 points here. Number one, Jonah Goldberg wrote an excellent column a couple of weeks ago in which he said that all the rules have changed. And I think we have to now consider the possibility that maybe Sarah Palin understands that fact better than the experts do. Number two, we don't know where those absentee ballots come from or when they were cast. They may have been cast in some degree before things got hot, and Lisa Murkowski may still win.
It's pretty amazing when you look at the big picture. Is there any broad themes, Erin, that you're seeing, or is it just such a different election cycle?
Every time we talk about a primary, every time we come and the panel and discuss this, the narrative seems to change. Is it a Tea Party year? Is it not? Is it Sarah Palin's year? Is it not? Is it an anti-incumbent year? Is it not? I'm not sure if there's one common thread we can draw. We may have to wait till November 3rd, look at the entire picture, and then see what themes we can really hang on to.
Charles, it does seem like conservative candidates overall are doing well, or more conservative candidates.
Yes.
John McCain, obviously, in that race was not the most conservative, but he tried to shore up his conservative credentials.
McCain ran right, and he's a giant. He's a giant in the state, so I think that's sort of an exceptional race. I think the Florida race, the McCollum-Scott race, is the interesting one, where McCollum, who was the veteran politician, lost. I think in the absence of an ideological difference between the candidates, running against an incumbent can be decisive. And if you have a lot of money, the other guy will say you're buying an election, but the underlying assumption also is you're incorruptible because you are rich. I think that's also a factor.
Okay, time to reveal the results of tonight's new segment, the Text to Vote poll. We asked you which Senate race is most interesting, and here are the results from your text messages tonight and online votes. 22% said California, 28% said Florida, 44% said Nevada, only 6% said Pennsylvania. We want to know what all of you are thinking. Thank you for voting. This is a new section. And here's the latest in Nevada, how it's shaping up. The Real Clear Politics average of 4 polls has the Senate Majority Leader, Harry Reid, up by just a point and a half against Sharon Angle, the Republican nominee. So we will, of course, be following this race very closely throughout. That's the first test for our voting. We had a lot of votes tonight, so thanks for tuning in. That's it for the panel, but stay tuned for an on-road collision with an unexpected ending.